What do you think are the biggest barriers, what forms the biggest resistance to change on the government level? Because we have all this evidence coming out, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. Do you think it's financial reasons, political reasons? Do you think it's just they're simply misinformed? They don't care? In the face of
I
so much
think,
evidence, why?
yeah, I mean, that's a difficult question because, all the evidence points towards, um, things like safer injecting facilities, overdose prevention sites, drug consumption rooms, whatever you want to call them. Uh, all the evidence points towards these sites are sites that not only save people's lives, but they also reduce the impact on society. Where they've been set up, and numerous countries now, I think 16 countries now, from Harm Reduction International's recent report, 16 countries have got them. There's estimated to be on over 200 sites operating around the world now. And the sites where they've been established for long periods of time, they've seen reductions in discarded equipment, reductions in bloodborne virus transmissions, and reductions, in deaths. So they're keeping people alive. So that those reductions in bloodborne viruses, reductions in discarded equipment, reductions in soft tissue skin infections, those stop people going out to hospital, stop ambulance call-outs, stop councils having to go out and pick up discarded equipment. So all that saves money. And I think where we see regulation for types of substances like cannabis, obviously there's data out there to say that there's not an increase in consumption for younger people, and there's not generally a high increase in consumption for people in that 18 to 25 age range either. And because it's regulated in terms of strength, it's not associated with more psychosis or mental health issues. So, I think it's a difficult question because the governments and their advisors must be seeing this data. They must be looking at it. They must be seeing it. But there is so much money tied up in the current system, from the amount that police get given to sort of continue to try and disrupt the criminal supply chains, to the court system, to the prison system. I mean, the current UK government, the Tory government, are all for building more prisons. If you're going to build more prisons, and if you're going to privatise prisons, you need people to send to them. Like, you can't create a big privatisation of the prison system and spend billions of pounds on prisons if there's nobody to send to them. And from the last time I looked into the statistics, around 1 in 4 people sit within the prison system for non-violent related drug offences. So that's a big proportion of the prison system if you've got big prisons to fill. And then obviously, like you mentioned, one of the narratives has got to be around the vote. We still, we still have a massive part of our society that are of that generation who were brought up in the, like myself, I was born in the 70s, brought up in the 80s, in 80s and 90s, where the narrative was just don't do it because it's bad, just say no. I remember the Grange Hill song. You're probably a bit young for it, Sam. But I remember it was all the rage when I was at school. In the 80s, like they'd done a little song and dance about just say no. So like, obviously people of my age, that sort of 30s and 40s and 50s and plus that. Have lived with this narrative since 1971, so people still vote on those issues. People still go to the ballot box and vote for the party that says they're going to put more policing on the street, that they're going to put the drug suppliers in prison, and they're going to stop the drug supply, despite the fact that all the political parties have been saying that for decades and never been able to do it. People still vote on that issue. So, I have hope, not a great deal, that the UK Labour Party just now will make some changes if they get into power, which it looks likely that they will after the debacle of recent years in terms of the current Tory government. But everything that comes out of the UK Labour front benches at the moment, from Keir Starmer and his front benchers, is all about being tough on crime and tough on the causes of crime. And one of his front benchers recently said, Steve Reid MP recently said something along the lines of absolutely naming and shaming people who use drugs, and it's just not what I would expect from Labour. I was brought up in a mining community in Scotland where my father was a miner down the coal pits when the coal pits were closed in the early 80s, 1984, where on the front lines of the miner strikes, and Labour were the party that stood up for the working classes, and the people from deprived areas and poor communities. And the simple reality of it is that the majority of people that are dying from fatal overdose, which is actually preventable overdose, are coming from poor communities. In the last two years, the figures that have came out, the studies have shown in Scotland that people from poor communities in the last figures were 15 times more likely to die from a drug death, and the year before 18 times more likely to die for a drug death. And the Labour that I was brought up with would be the Labour that would be standing up for these communities and saying, we need to make changes here because the people that are dying and the people that are affected by this are from working class, poorer communities. And that's a real shame. The party right now in the UK that has the best stance on drug policy is certainly the UK Green Party. I would say even better than the Scottish Green Party. The UK Green Party are quite clear on their stance. I don't really see any clarity from the Green Party. It's probably because they're a ministerial party now and they've joined forces with the SNP, and like all big political parties, they want to toe a party line and give a narrative out for votes in the future, whereas the UK Green Party are really clear on their stance. They want to regulate substances and take them away from the criminal gangs to make them safer in terms of the supply and distribution to people that are really dependent on them. So you can probably tell when I start talking about politics, I do get a little bit, it upsets me because I have friends, like in political parties, and friends and people that, I would call friends in all political parties, and it's frustrating because we need politicians to be really brave and really stand up. But everybody at the moment is sort of on a knife edge with it, with the state of play in terms of Scottish independence, and also the next general election coming up soon as well.